Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Yes, indeed. This is nutritional pharmacist Jerry Hickey. I'm here for Invite Health. We're discussing Panax Ginseng. It's a helpful herb for energy and endurance when you're fatigued. But if you use it daily, it's good for your memory. So let's discuss it. Panax ginseng is native to Eastern Asia, places like Japan and Korea and China. It's widely used for medicinal properties. It's been used for thousands of years. It's used as a tonic, like they call it a yang tonic in traditional medicine in China, which kind of is, let's get with it, let's get going, let's get active, that kind of tonic. Now, patients take ginseng to improve athletic performance, to help restore their strength and stamina, to stimulate the immune system. It does have some stimulatory effects for the immune system. The ginsenosides, their ingredients in the ginseng, they seem to be the most responsible agents in the ginseng for its activities. Now, the ginseng we're discussing, sometimes it's called Chinese ginseng, sometimes it's called Korean ginseng. If you look it up in a botany book, or if you're learning about it in school, it's called Panax Ginseng. So the real name is Panax Ginseng. Now, ginseng's been used in the treatment of erectile dysfunction. It does have potential. It's been used in studies for people with type 2 diabetes. It helps improve insulin sensitivity and it reduces insulin resistance. That's very important. That's a very important finding. If you eat a meal, the insulin is supposed to be released from a gland called your pancreas, and it's supposed to pack away the excess sugar and get it out of your blood. And then you release the excess sugar as needed in between meals, so you have a consistent source of energy. And people with diabetes, they have resistance to the effects of insulin, and their sugar stays high after a meal. And that's a bad thing. For instance, if you have pre-diabetes means your sugar is elevated, but it's not to the point where it's diagnosed as full-blown diabetes, yet having pre-diabetes greatly enhances your risk of developing full-blown diabetes. So in pre-diabetes, if you have resistance to insulin, it's a really bad sign because that means you're going to develop full-blown diabetes within about a year. So when they gave Panax ginseng to people with type 2 diabetes, it reduced their insulin resistance. That's a very good finding. They've also found that it helps people with low-grade high blood pressure or high blood pressure. They used to call it pre-hypertension, but now it's kind of like low-grade high blood pressure or moderate-grade high blood pressure. Ginseng helps with that. And it can safely be mixed with your medication because it doesn't cause low blood pressure. Now, they found that in older women, in postmenopausal women, ginseng improves their heart health, their cardiovascular health. They also found that in older women whose hands and feet get cold easily, that ginseng helps alleviate that cold hypersensitivity in the hands and feet of older women. A number of randomized clinical trials show that ginseng helps alleviate idiopathic chronic fatigue. So what's idiopathic chronic fatigue? Idiopathic means it's a condition where they don't know the cause. So idiopathic chronic fatigue means these people are always tired, they're always fatigued, but nobody can find out why. So the ginsenosides are the ingredients most responsible for many of ginseng's effects. For instance, in the brain, the ginsenosides, especially one called RB1, the ginsenoside RB1, it improves the release of acetylcholine. Now that's fantastic. Acetylcholine levels vary from person to person. They drop with age. Even the smartest astrophysicist, the level of acetylcholine drops with age. Acetylcholine does incredibly important things in a human brain. For instance, Acetylcholine hardwires the brain to connectivity, the neural networks, the neural pathways, the connectivity between brain cells. It's a region between the brain cell called the synaptic region. That's where information flows from cell to cell. So acetylcholine repairs that. Acetylcholine allows you to learn something, and acetylcholine allows you to remember something. So when you look in the mirror and you know your name, that's acetylcholine. Anything you remember, it's because you have acetylcholine. But acetylcholine also repairs your gray matter. Your gray matter is about 80 million cells. Our gray matter consists of over 80 billion cells that are involved with memory and processing information and learning and figuring things out. You know, all those cognitive, executive memory functions. And acetylcholine repairs it. So without acetylcholine, you can't repair your brain. You start to lose memory cells. So acetylcholine does a lot of things in the human brain. And the ginseng, the Panax Ginseng, ginsenoside improves the release of acetylcholine in everybody's brain. So if you need ginseng for the brain, you take it daily. If you need it for enhancing your energy because you're fatigued once in a while, like you didn't get enough sleep 2 nights in a row, you just take it that day. But people with persistent fatigue, they could take it daily. It's safe to take daily. It's been used for thousands of years in billions of people. We know it's safe. It also enhances the postsynaptic uptake of choline. Now that's really important because that's what makes acetylcholine. And it helps GABA work better. There's 2 primary neurotransmitters in the brain that are not really oppositional. They kind of work in balance. There's glutamate to kind of activate the brain, and there's GABA, which is neuroinhibitory. It relaxes the brain. So there's neuroexcitatory, neuroinhibitory, and there's a balance to keep the brain functioning properly. You don't want it excessively stimulated, and you don't want it kind of sleepy and droopy. So you need the balance there, and ginseng helps restore that balance, that kind of yin and yang brain balance thing going on there. Now, they've seen in human clinical trials that ginseng enhances memory skills and thinking skills. It may help with abstract thinking. That's pretty cool. That's like math and physics and, or planning. Mental arithmetic skills. Reaction times in the brain and like healthy middle-aged people. So it really means something. It really does mean something. Now, ginseng also is shown to reduce muscle injury and muscle inflammation after sports and exercise in us people. Part of it is that it improves nitric oxide synthesis in the endothelium. So let me explain what that is, because that's very interesting. When you have a flat tire, you fill it with air. For your blood vessels to open, it's a similar function. You release a gas called nitric oxide, and it inflates your blood vessels, and blood flows more smoothly. So when you're exercising, if you can create more of this gas, which is called nitric oxide, and make it stable, you're getting more circulation to your muscles, so you're getting a greater distribution of nutrition and a greater supply of oxygen to your muscle. That rinses out lactic acid. Otherwise, lactic acid causes your muscles to seize. So you can actually work out at a higher level for a longer time if you can enhance the delivery of nitric oxide to the blood vessel walls. And the word endothelium basically means the cells that line the blood vessels. They're cells that line your blood vessel wall like a rug shoulder to shoulder, and it's their job to push open the blood vessel when the heart pumps. The heart pumps every 3/4 of a second, about 80 times per minute. So the ginseng helps the release of nitric oxide. That pumps up in the blood vessels. It's easier for the heart to deliver oxygen and nutrition to your muscles and rinse out the acids that would otherwise cause muscle seizing, and you get a better workout. But that's also good for your blood pressure and your heart, because it's if the blood vessels don't respond to signals from the heart and they stay stiffened and closed, the heart has to pump harder and faster to get the blood to your brain and your legs. That's called high blood pressure. So there's a number of benefits from that. So here's a study from PLOS One. PLOS One is a great American group of journals. We pay for them. The taxpayers pay for them. They're open access. That means anybody could go into PLOS One and look at the studies. And this is from researchers in South Korea, which makes sense because that's one of the plants that grows in South Korea. I mean, South Korea isn't going to investigate echinacea. Echinacea mostly grows in America. So we investigate echinacea. But Panax Ginseng grows in Japan and Korea, so that's what they're going to look at. So it makes sense. This is 90 people, 21 men, 69 women, but they had fatigue all the time. And they couldn't figure out what the cause was, so we call that idiopathic chronic fatigue. Now, this is a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled human clinical trial. That's a gold standard, state-of-the-art human clinical trial. You can't get better than that. So over 4 weeks, they gave them either Panax Ginseng or they gave them placebo, which is a fake pill. But it had to look just like it's a, nobody knew because it was randomized who was getting the ginseng, who was getting the fake pill. And they had to keep track of the severity of the fatigue, and it improved. Patients felt better physical energy when they took the ginseng, and they also had a lot more mental energy. Now, that's a very important point. I do radio programs many days a week on nutrition. And Saturday morning I have my biggest program, Saturday morning from 7:30 to 9. So typically after my Saturday morning program, that's I've been working 6 days now, I'm tired. And one day I was sitting on the couch and I had some goofy TV show on. I don't know what it was about. And I was just sitting there like a vegetable. And I looked down and there happened to be a study on my coffee table that said older people are fatigued not because their body's fatigued, it's because their brain is fatigued. And I go, that's absolutely true. My body's fine right now. I could do push-ups. My brain is exhausted. So when they gave people with chronic types of fatigue the Panax Ginseng, they got a lot of brain energy, but they also got physical energy. It means something. That means something. So now, this is a review of 10 human clinical trials. It's from the Mayo Clinic in Phoenix, Arizona, and Oregon Health and Science University in Portland, Oregon, their School of Nursing. It's in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, which is a peer-reviewed journal. And they looked at 10 studies. And first of all, they found that Panax Ginseng was really safe. They found it was really safe. And they found that it worked. They found it worked in reviewing 10 human clinical trials. This is called a meta-analysis. A meta-analysis gets a bunch of studies that are looking at the same thing, but the studies have to be high quality. They have to lack bias. They have to be well-controlled, well-designed, accurately reported. They have to be in peer-reviewed medical journals. Peer-reviewed means a bunch of experts in that field review the study and tell the journal, hey, this is real, it's worth printing. So 10 peer-reviewed studies from medical journals on ginseng, and it helped fatigue. They said the American ginseng also helped. Now, American ginseng is interesting. That's called Panax quinquefolium. But in this podcast, we're focusing on Panax ginseng, which is Asian ginseng. That it helps people with chronic illnesses, with fatigue, like it might be heart disease, it might be viral infections or liver disease, it might be diabetes, it might be idiopathic fatigue, but the ginseng helps them with fatigue. Now here's, I'm not going to read many more studies. This is in the Journal of Ginseng Research. Can you imagine? That's how many studies come out on ginseng. And they're looking at Korean red ginseng. Ginseng comes in red and white. There's not much difference. And they said, hey, this stuff helps fatigue. They did a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled human clinical trial from hospitals in China on 200 people. And when they gave them the Panax Ginseng, it improved their energy without improving heat. In other words, it didn't make them hyper or anything. It just improved their energy. Here's the last one, but this is really for men. It's the Asian Journal of Andrology, which is kind of men's health. It's the Division of Urological Clinic, Sao Paulo University. That would be in Brazil. And it's guys with mild to moderate erectile dysfunction. And they found out when they gave them Panax Ginseng, it helped. Most of the guys, it helped in every way possible. And the interesting thing, it didn't affect hormones. It didn't have an effect on estrogen, testosterone, prolactin. It didn't affect cholesterol, none of that. It only affected their ED. So I would judge this to be a pretty handy herb. In any event, if you ever have a question on something I'm discussing on one of these podcasts, we have a lot of stores, Invite Health. And within these stores, we have health professionals. We have naturopathic physicians, registered dietitians, clinical nutritionists, several pharmacist nutritionists like myself. Let me give you an email address that goes directly to 5 of our nutritionists. nutrition@invitehealth.com. nutrition@invitehealth.com, and you can ask them, I listen to one of these podcasts from Invite Health and I have a question. You can also go to the website, invitehealth.com. There's phone numbers there so that you could talk directly to a nutritionist. You could even go into the store if there's a store available to you. We have stores in New Jersey, New York, and Florida. In any event, it's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for tuning into the Invite Health podcast. You can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Please make sure you subscribe. Please leave us a review. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. And we'll see you next time, hopefully on another episode of the Invite Health podcast. And thank you so much for listening.